Hello, and welcome to the very last developer session here at EGX 2018. I'm Ollie Welsh from Eurogamer, and we're going to have a bit of a light-hearted debate. We're basically going to rehash an argument we have in the office at Eurogamer almost every week, which is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and that's probably the last time I'm going to refer to it by its full name today, versus Fortnite and the future of the Battle Royale genre. With me from Eurogamer, I've got Chris Tapsell, who is Team PUBG, as I'm going to be calling it.
Hello.
Tom Phillips, who is Team Fortnite. And Emma Kent, who plays both and claims not to have a preference, although we'll get to the bottom of that. I'm a truly impartial judge because I don't play either of them. First up, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. PUBG, PUBG, Plunkbat. Can I have a show of hands for PUBG? Is that how you say it? Who says PUBG?
There's one person.
Bless you.
One person. Plunkbat. We've got any Plunkbats here? No, that's a clear vote of confidence for PUBG. And another show of hands, actually. Who here plays Fortnite? And who plays PUBG?
Yeah.
And who hates Battle Royale games and doesn't play them at all? 2 or 3.
Why are you here? Thank you. Come on, welcome.
All right, let's start. Let's get straight to the meat of it, which is better. And I'm going to go to Chris to state the case for PUBG.
So I think something I need to get off my chest, first of all, with the entire debate, is the fact that my first experience of Fortnite was a preview event for the Fortnite before there was a Battle Royale mode in it. I don't know if any of you have played the Save the World version, but it's not great.
Did you like it when you wrote your preview?
I did not love it. And I wrote one of the harsh previews that I'll probably ever write. I don't know if Epic Games like me very much now. Yeah, I wasn't a fan. I thought there was a lot of kind of borrowing, but unhealthy borrowing from other games. There was a lot of fairly kind of, I hate the word generic, but I'm going to use the word generic. There was a lot of generic stuff in there. It was very kind of, it was like 5 years too late for what it was putting out there. And so that's kind of like left a bit of a stain on me, I think. So that immediately makes it harder for me to just get into a game like Fortnite, because that was my first impression of it. But PUBG for me comes from just a love of the intensity of it. I was a big MOBA player before that. I played a ton of League of Legends. I still play that. But less so now because I play more PUBG. I think the same goes for a lot of PC players as well, like competitive players. They came from that kind of environment. And yeah, I love the competition of it, the intensity. It was very much an adrenaline rush game. It's the type of thing where you normally end it furious, but wanting another round. And I just don't get that from any other games at all. The closest thing was something like League of Legends, but that required a team, it required cooperating with strangers. You normally end up in an argument with something like that. So the PUBG was the first experience I had, and really the only game still that's given me that kind of level of intensity and adrenaline in playing an online game, really. I just don't think Fortnite is capable of matching that. I don't think it's trying to match that. I think that as a tactical experience, PUBG is pretty much unparalleled. So yeah, I think as a tactical, competitive, adrenaline-fueled, tense shooter and survival game, I don't think anything can get near it.
Do you play, so like, every game's publication, there's like one game that everybody plays in the office, and for us, like 3 years ago, it was Destiny. 2 years ago, it was Overwatch. Last year, it was PUBG.
Yeah.
And now it's Fortnite. Do you join in with the games of Fortnite?
Occasionally. I mean, my job...
if we need a fourth player, we
might
ask.
If the normal person isn't available, I can help, guys. But yeah, I work on guides at Eurogamer, so I kind of have to stay up to date with what's going on in Fortnite, even though I'm not the lead on that. So I play it for work anyway, and I think it's fine. I think the game is just fine. So I'll hop in if I have to do something for work, or if I've got time to kill and there's nothing else out. But it's not the game that I would go to. I brought my Switch with me while I'm up here at the show, just in case Season 6 drops over the weekend, because we thought there was a chance. But even though I've had like a load of Battle Stars to go and clean up and stuff, I've had no impulse to do that in the evenings or in my spare time. So it's not something I turn to for sort of leisure purposes, but I'll hop in if other people are playing. That's about as far as it goes.
All right, Tom, Team Fortnite, why is it the best?
Someone asked me the other night why I play Fortnite, because it's not really my kind of game. I like role-playing games, games with story. And I sort of thought, I don't really know. And then I thought, I really like watching Great British Bake Off, even though I'm not a big fan of cooking, I'm rubbish at cooking. And it turns out I'm quite rubbish at Fortnite as well. But I love the idea of playing a game which everyone else is playing. And it's those games that you talked about. And then coming into work the next day and talking about it, what happened, and being part of that sort of zeitgeisty conversation. And we do it with Bake Off. Like, loads of us watch Bake Off in the office, and then we come in the next morning, it's like, did you see that blah? Fortnite, it's sort of the same. Can't build at all, I'm mad at that. But I appreciate all the stuff it does for people who they're along for the ride. There's just so many fun things to do in the game that aren't even really to do with Battle Royale, like playing golf and just logging on and like visiting places of this weird, ever-evolving map. And I think the map is such a huge part of this game that PUBG doesn't have, and it's part of that conversation. We write about this map a stupid amount on Eurogamer because it constantly changes and evolves in amazing ways that no other game does. Like, every game wants to be a live service. Every game wants to be the only game that captures your attention. And Fortnite is the game at the moment that is doing this, and it's doing this better than anything else. And people scrutinize like the trucks moving on the map day by day. But then big things like the meteor landing and obliterating a whole zone. And then to like the sort of weird things that people just want to see what happens next, like the cube revolving around the map until this week it turned Loot Lake into a big jelly. Like, no other game is doing this stuff, and it fascinates me, and I love being part of it. And even though I'm not very good at it, I appreciate like the other stuff it does, and just being part of it, part of that world, and having fun. That's why I like Fortnite.
So it's fun, as opposed to PUBG, which you made sound like
intense adrenaline. It's fun. A bit like Bake Off.
Yeah.
And you like the social aspect. You like the fact that the game gives you stuff to talk about with other people.
Yeah, we write about PUBG as well, and there's always patches going on there, and PUBG updates all the time. But not as much as Fortnite, I think you'd agree, and not with the same level of like interesting, like creative additions. Like, one of Fortnite's best things to do, as soon as I log on, the first thing I do is I go to the item shop and I see what ridiculous skins are available that day, and I think, man, I wish I had loads of money to buy these things. But another thing we talk about, and another way of sort of just making this fun space that's cool to hang out in.
Emma, you play both.
Yeah.
What determines which one you're going to boot up on your computer when you sit down to play?
I guess it depends what kind of evening I want. If I want an extended chat with my friends, I normally go for PUBG. I'm sorry, I'm going to keep calling it PUBG because it's just ingrained in me. I think because PUBG has such a long build-up in between battles, you've got a chance to chat with your friends as you're collecting loot, things like that.
You can do that on Skype,
Why not play a game at the same time, multitask? But yeah, and it means that you get more intense battles when they do happen. Compared to Fortnite, I do feel when you pop into a game, it's immediate. If you go to Tilted, it's very immediate. You can die within about 2 seconds because you haven't got a gun straight away. And to be fair, that can happen in PUBG, but it's less common. And I do prefer the gunplay in PUBG as well. Fortnite, by necessity, so it can appeal to a broad audience and kids. It's got less blood and things like that. So when in PUBG you're playing, you can see a little poof if you get someone. Sometimes in Fortnite I can't really tell. So maybe if I want a more gory evening, I guess, in PUBG. Yeah.
Sometimes you just fancy a gory evening.
Yeah, no, don't we all?
I play Fortnite, so no.
You just want fun and rainbows.
I do. I play Fortnite because I'm too tired to play anything else. I'm too tired to remember what I was doing in some big, like whatever I was doing in Assassin's Creed last night. And I'll just turn on Fortnite and I'll play a 10-minute match. And then I'll play another 10-minute match. And then 2 hours later, I'll think, yeah, I've had a really good time playing Fortnite.
It is incredibly charming. The map is wonderful. Its art style is so cartoony and colourful. And that's something you definitely do not get in PUBG. And it really depends the kind of experience you want that day, I guess.
So I can't stand the art style, for the record. I think it's hugely derivative.
Really? Because oh my God.
PUBG is one of the ugliest games I've ever seen.
PUBG looks like every other military shooter in the world.
Oh, it looks absolutely muck, but at least it kind of admits it looks like muck, and it never even tries to look interesting. I can't stand the Fortnite thing because it has it has the DreamWorks eyebrow. I don't know if you've heard of that, but there's a lot of DreamWorks characters in animated films pull the exact same expression, which is like, hey. And it's in every single promotional material for every single DreamWorks movie. You'll find one of the characters doing the DreamWorks eyebrow, and it's like, hey, I'm just having a fun time. And it infuriates me, and I can't stand it, and everything should be miserable. But that's why I prefer.
What does it look like again?
I'm not going to do that again.
So, I mean, it's pretty obvious Fortnite has an awful lot more players than PUBG did. We thought PUBG was huge last year, and then Fortnite has completely blown past it. PUBG's still really successful.
It's enormous.
Why is Fortnite winning?
Because it's free to play. That's the reason. Like, there is absolutely no barrier to entry. It is on every single platform. There's no cost to get involved. That's the reason.
Yeah, the platform thing is huge as well. I think getting Battle Royale onto consoles, where
getting it on PlayStation ahead of PUBG.
Yeah, where a lot of people just have a console in their home, which is completely understandable, is a huge factor in it. And PUBG is kind of embedded in sort of PC gaming culture. It's that style of game. It's that attitude towards gaming. It's the preference for hardcore, which I'd often roll my eyes at myself, but clearly, I'm a fan of it as well. And I think that, like you say, it's the barriers are just immediately removed to playing that game.
I think, and it also fits the kind of game it is. It's very welcoming. It's very like there's no bar to entry. If you just want to go in and pick up a rocket launcher and fire it at someone, then you can do. I feel with PUBG, I did play it a little bit, but I was rubbish. Yeah. And there was nothing else for me to do in the game apart from be rubbish and hide in the bush and then die. Whereas Fortnite, there's more.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You can have a lot more fun being terrible at Fortnite.
I think on top of the kind of free-to-play aspect, Fortnite's involved in this kind of weird cycle of viral dance moves. So sometimes it just picks them up, like the floss, and that was already a popular meme, but then there are other ones like Orange Justice and various other like Take the Out.
What does Orange Justice look like?
I'm not doing a Fortnite dance on stage. It's not happening. And now we've got football players doing Fortnite dances, and obviously people are going to be like, what's that about? I should check out that game. So I think PUBG hasn't really had that because it hasn't got the emotes, the kind of broader mass appeal, unfortunately.
I guess at some point the game gets so big that it just starts to market itself, doesn't it? And it snowballs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you have Dele Alli doing a Fortnite dance in the quarterfinal of the World Cup, I mean, you can't buy that kind of promotion.
No.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can PUBG do to, I'm not going to say close the gap because that seems unlikely, but to survive in a Fortnite world?
Sure. Not a lot. I honestly don't think that there's a huge amount they can do to change the
do you think they should? I guess is a better question.
I honestly don't think they should even be thinking about Fortnite. I think that we saw what happened when they tried to do the event pass. People who play PUBG remember that, where you got charged money to temporarily unlock some ugly skins that you had to earn by doing stuff in game anyway. It just doesn't translate. Obviously, the implementation of that is terrible compared to Fortnite's, but it's just not the same style of game. You saw how people reacted to it when they implemented things like emotes, and everyone was just going, well, this is just going to impact on the realism, it's going to impact on my immersion. Someone's going to be using emotes to try and peek around corners without exposing themselves in first person and things like that. What they care about is like a simulation experience of almost a survival game more than that kind of environment where you can go in and hop around and mess around. Obviously, there's an element of PUBG that is a little bit slapstick, and that is a huge draw to it as well, is the kind of, I guess there's like a juxtaposition, and that's why it's funny, in a way, of 4 of you getting together and taking it really seriously and really concentrating and trying really hard, and then you get in a Dacia and end up rolling it over and exploding and flying into the water, and you waste half an hour of your life. But that is still enjoyable because of how ludicrous it is within the context of how serious the rest of that game is. So I think that they've made mistakes by looking at Fortnite. I spoke to Brendan Green and I asked him about that, even though he didn't want to be asked about that, and he said that, you know, all we care about is PUBG, we don't think about that, we don't care about the competition, we still think that we're huge and so on. But the reality is they very obviously saw what was going on, especially early this year when the big shift happened. And they made some mistakes. I think it's much better when it doubles down on what PUBG is. Things like introducing ranks like they have recently is going to be a huge draw. There are going to be a lot of players that come back to the rank system, a lot of like Twitch streamers and that kind of thing, who care about that and the bragging rights. I think that will help it. But I think
there's also the new map coming as well, snow map.
Yeah, there's a new map, which is really exciting. I think they need to carry on fixing the game, making it more stable, making it fun, and then just allowing people to just play PUBG reliably, and it will do just fine.
Like, because like the reliably part, you've got to admit, even being Team PUBG, that's the problem, right? Because Fortnite doesn't break.
It's incredibly polished.
This is where PUBG is going to have a real problem going forward, and I don't think it can pick up players again, because you've got the big console game and PC game players coming in like Call of Duty, Battlefield, and they have that level of polish from the ground up. You know, they know how to make shooters. PUBG Core, basically, I mean, the game started as a mod, and there's no sort of background of solid polished game development there. Call of Duty is going to come out, and then you have a situation where Call of Duty is going to come out as a polished but paid for product.
Yeah.
And if you haven't bought PUBG already, and you're thinking about, well, what games am I buying this year? Well, I'll buy Call of Duty because it looks good. Do I want to buy PUBG as well? Well, no, because Call of Duty has
of course.
Battle Royale built in. So I think it's really going to struggle. And as more and more people catch up, you know, there's people trying Battle Royale, free to play, and having limited success. But these games which are coming in with having Battle Royale modes in, like Call of Duty, you're buying Call of Duty already, you're going to give Battle Royale mode a go, and then why would you buy anything else on top of that?
So that's just a few weeks ago. Have any of you played the beta of the Call of Duty Battle Royale mode?
Yeah, I've played it.
What did you make of it?
I thought that it was okay. In a word, I thought it was fine. I think that there's going to be a lot of interest from kind of hardcore, again, Twitch streamers and that kind of environment, people who like that element of it. I think people come from a competitive background where they play things like Call of Duty now. It's taken quite seriously. It used to be a game that you played casually, where you'd go home from school or like play it late at night at uni or something like that. Call of Duty, has shifted really towards the esports focus that they've spent a lot of money on and they've pushed quite heavily. They try and make it feel almost more, I don't know, more and more twitchy every year, I guess. I think that it will obviously bring that to the table. I don't think that it is as much of a threat to Fortnite. To PUBG. There's so many different battle royales. I don't think it's as much of a threat to PUBG as people think.
Why not?
I think that it's much closer to Fortnite than it is to PUBG. I think it's only close to PUBG aesthetically because it's ugly as sin. It's one of the ugliest games I've ever played. It's absolutely vile to look at. It's horrible. If you get up close, if you lie in the grass, everything is like extremely low quality because they are pushing to have it running at 60 frames per second. They're pushing to try and hit 100 players at 60 FPS in a competitive game like that on a massive game world. And it is extremely challenging to do. And on consoles as well, not just on PC. On a standard PS4, but base PS4 has to run at 60 frames per second to really count as a Call of Duty game, because Call of Duty fans are used to that. So I think that it looks like PUBG. It plays like Fortnite because it is jump in, jump out. It's snappy. It feels very inconsequential when you die. I feel no tension when I play that game whatsoever. It's faster. It's more reactions-based. I have a lot of difficulty with their implementation of close quarters mechanics onto a larger map. So I think that they struggle with sound to an element, to a degree. I've been snuck up on a lot of times in Call of Duty where I never get stuck on in PUBG. You know, same headphones, same audio setup, and things like that. I think that they have some issues with converting combat from close quarters to long-range stuff. And I think that it is more like you can jump in a helicopter and fly it around and then shoot some zombies for a bit and then drop a weird monkey bomb on someone. And it has that sort of gifable, memeable feel to it, which PUBG is, they're going for different things.
Tom, do you agree? Do you think
No,
PUBG
not
can
really.
survive COD?
Just think on a very basic level, people are going to be presented with a paid-for option. And I think with Blackout, that is going to take more people away from PUBG than it will Fortnite. Fortnite is always going to appeal to a crowd of people who don't want to pay, or like they're not used to paying for Fortnite. Why would they start paying for Battle Royale? It's always going to be intended to be super accessible. It doesn't look like Blackout. Blackout and PUBG both, I think, appeal to a slightly more mature audience. A grittier.
I disagree with Blackout.
But yeah, there will be people who will just carry on enjoying Fortnite because it's free and easy to play and all their friends are already playing it. And there's no barrier to entry at all. You don't need to learn Call of Duty mechanics. You don't need to worry about buying a game in a shop or downloading or paying for it. It's very simple. You just see what's new in Fortnite today because it'll carry on being updated and you know they'll just release a new season pass and people will be... It's actually really interesting that the new season of Fortnite is about to start, and that will get people signed up to completing the next season of Fortnite while all of these other things are coming out, like Blackout.
Yeah.
And, well, you've already, you know, if you are choosing to pay for Fortnite, you're already signed up for that season, so you want to challenges to unlock all the stuff that you've already paid for.
Emma, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I feel like it might not just be Call of Duty that will kill PUBG, because we've got to remember we've got Battlefield bringing a Battle Royale mode at some point. And it's PUBG's already started losing audience to Fortnite over a long period. It's just a slow drain. I'm not sure if PUBG can really bring it back. They've been trying desperately to rework their image with the Fix PUBG campaign lately to try and tackle all of the bugs. And to be fair, like, the community that already exists within PUBG is really happy with that, but I'm pretty sure that it's not going to do enough to bring other people in and get them to buy the game, because you're selling your game based on the fact that it works, which should really be the basic thing.
Why would you, if you haven't started playing PUBG right now, why would you start playing PUBG when there are lots of other options to explore as well? You know, you'll have probably tried it out if you wanted to by now.
Chris, answer that question.
Yeah, well, because it's probably coming to PlayStation.
It will come to PlayStation, yeah.
And Xbox is still yet to get a lot of stuff that's on PC. And I think that it has a reputation. And I think that we're very much overestimating the effect that Fortnite has had on PUBG. PUBG only dipped under 1 million players daily for the first time recently, like a week ago or something like that.
But it was at 3 million at the start of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it was bigger than it used to be, but that's still, to put that into perspective, this is still 3 times the size of things like Dota, which is previously the biggest deal.
Yeah, I don't think PUBG is going to disappear. No, absolutely not. And it will get a bump when it comes out on PlayStation. But it will come out on PlayStation at a time when Blackout and presumably Battlefield will already have its Battle Royale stuff out too.
Potentially.
So less of a bump.
Yeah, I think so. I think Battlefield is more of a threat to it than Call of Duty is. Even though Battlefield won't sell as many copies as Call of Duty, I think that Call of Duty's audience are going to buy Call of Duty. I don't think that Call of Duty's audience really changes every year. They have had a consistent drop-off in sales for, the last 5 years, something like that? Don't quote me on that. They've had a consistent drop-off in sales for a little while now.
Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's because their player base is...
3 reversed that trend a bit.
Right. So that's because their player base is aging in terms of the people who grew up with it and got the brand recognition. I don't think people are going to go, oh, I'm going to go back into Call of Duty, or I'm going to start Call of Duty with this one. And stop playing PUBG or ignore PUBG. I think that those are distinct audiences, and you're going to have a consistent Call of Duty audience and a consistent PUBG audience, and they'll probably play both. People who like Battle Royale often play both.
I wonder whether there really is, despite you've got to give Call of Duty a chance. But I wonder whether there's really room, because I've seen this happen a lot of times while I've been covering games. It happened with MMOs after World of Warcraft. There was a massive pile-on. Everybody had to try to have one. None of them could put a dent in it. It happened with MOBAs after League of Legends.
Yeah.
Dota 2 got a toehold. Everything else after that, not a hope.
Yep.
I just wonder.
Car Battlers, everyone
Exactly.
tried to copy that.
So I just wonder whether you reach a point where you've got 2 big games out there, whether it can really support a third one or a fourth one.
Well, I think Call of Duty has a good shot of making Blackout successful, because people will not necessarily be buying Call of Duty just for Blackout.
Right.
And then it will become successful because it's one of those other options in the menu. Beyond that, I mean, if you're asking, do I think another big Battle Royale game is suddenly going to sprout up, not being attached to a Call of Duty or a Battlefield, then no, that's not going to happen.
Right. What games are going to get Battle Royale in the future?
I'd like to see Mario Kart get it. I think that would be great. It's like a massive
That
battle
would
map.
actually work.
100-player battle mode in Mario Kart.
Yeah.
You've only got one balloon though, right?
It would never work. I mean, Nintendo would never ever do it, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'd love that. FIFA? I mean, it's already
Kind
got it
of
right
has
now.
already.
Yeah.
It has one already?
Well, it's got, I don't know if people are aware of this, but it's got like a sort of a weird knockout, last man standing sort of vibe to this new mode, where it's like a casual kickoff mode, and basically every time one of you scores a goal, you lose a player, and it gets down to a point where I think you have 6 players in each team or something like that. So it's very, very vague tying in of concept of losing players over time, but
I'm actually surprised. I haven't seen as many shooters launch Battle Royale modes as I was expecting to.
I think it's really difficult. I think it's really difficult to do, and that's why it's taking so long. So, and you can see that in Call of Duty saying, well, we're not going to have 100 players at the moment. We'll work up from, what is it, sort of 60-something, 70-something. And Battlefield at the same time. Even companies which are really experienced in multiplayer games are having issues like hitting that 100 point, which is what players expect.
yeah.
But in time,
I think people are starting to realize as well that it's not a genre that makes your game popular. It's not, like we had it with survival sims as well, and there are tons of them popping up just before PUBG. And it really isn't that makes it popular. The same with Minecraft clones, it's everything. It's the game itself. If the game implements the genre well, it works and it's popular. If it's marketed well, if it's packaged well, if it releases at the right time. There's so many other things that go into a game being successful. I think people are starting to learn from the mistakes of MOBAs and like class-based shooters with Overwatch and all of these things that we listed, that they fail over and over and over again, these kind of slightly blatant rip-offs. It's people are becoming more cautious with it. It's games where they think that it will actually work, and it's coming alongside another fully blown product as well, where it's going to come in. It's not going to be every single game where suddenly let's just do a battle royale. I don't know. Mario
Emma, do
Kart.
you reckon we're still going to be playing battle royales in like 10 years' time? Or is it a fad that's going to blow over?
I feel like they might still be there in the same way that MOBAs are still here, but they're just not at the forefront of discussion anymore. And if there are going to be battle royales around, I think they'll have taken them in different directions. So Battlefield already is doing squad-based only, I think. It's 64 players and people play in 4s. So that's already kind of stretching what we typically think of as a battle royale. So potentially, but it's almost impossible to say, I think.
Okay, I think we've got time to take a few questions, or if you've got any battle royale flavoured rants, and anything you want to put to the panel, we bring a mic out. So
just tell us we're wrong. It's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to say. Or we're right. You know, maybe everyone just agrees. That'd be nice.
What is it about battle royale games? Why did this happen?
I mean, they evolved from stuff like DayZ. There was sort of a survival multiplayer.
Does anyone remember Minecraft Hunger Games? That was great.
Yeah.
Right.
That was
It's great.
a little hint.
Well, you got a question?
Hello.
Hi. I was wondering what happened to H1Z1. Why didn't that become the big thing, PUBG and Fortnite instead?
Well, what happened is that Brendan Green, who made the Battle Royale mode for H1Z1, left to make his own game, and that was PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And I think he took a lot of the talent with him, didn't he?
As far as I know,
Because you're right,
yeah.
H1Z1 was kind of first in
Yeah.
a lot
It's
of ways
still
in terms
knocking
of
around.
It's
capitalising
been
on them.
doing well on PlayStation recently because
Yeah.
partly because PUBG hasn't been there, so that's going to be interesting if PUBG comes on. But on the PC version as well with H1Z1, it definitely had a lot of issues with the community being unhappy with the game modes and things like auto royale, and it became a vehicle fest towards the end of the
yeah.
game.
Yes. Good point.
So they've been trying to balance that out, and there are loads of changes going on at the moment. I think the PC team has changed, so there's a new joint venture going on with another company to try and revamp it all. So it might still hang in there, but it's definitely not had a smooth ride.
Yeah. PUBG really pandered to the streamers as well. So when it was launching, they did a lot of work with sort of content creators, so they're known as, where they put kind of their icons in the games and kind of made them feel a part of the development of it when it was very first taking off. And I think a lot of those people who felt quite welcomed by PUBG when it was taking off, and specifically targeted by it, were the people who were streaming H1Z1 on Twitch. A lot of the time it was, I'd be watching, say, League of Legends streamers on a weekend or something like that, or in the background at work or whatever. And in between games, when you have to queue for a long time for a top player, you've got like 20 minutes to kill, they would play H1Z1. And I think it's those people that are so important these days. What they're playing is very much often what other people are playing. We've seen it with Fortnite again. And I think that stealing those people away, as well as very much what Emma said and makes great points, it was enough to pretty much kill it, because those games are so similar. I think H1Z1 is a great example of the situation that we're going to have with PUBG on consoles as well, where it's actually thrived because it's scratching the PUBG itch for a lot of people who have a PS4 but look at PUBG and go, I will play that game, I want to play a kind of tactical, hardcore shooter, and I don't get it. It's a bit grimy and ugly. So yeah, I think H1Z1 was a very, very interesting situation. I would be surprised if it survived PUBG coming to PS4 in particular. I think Black Ops will affect it, but I think PUBG could kill it when it comes to console. But we'll see.
You got to feel for the developers. That team, they're called Daybreak now, but they used to be called Sony Online Entertainment back in the day. They made EverQuest, and then World of Warcraft came along and absolutely flattened it. It's now happened to them twice. That must be pretty galling.
Bit awkward.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, well, I think we can knock it on the head there.
We've got one
there's
more
one
put his
more.
hand up.
Yep.
Here we go.
Sorry to interrupt.
That is a nice Last of Us t-shirt.
Thank you. Hello. What's my question again? Yeah, so for each of your respective games, so like PUBG, Fortnite, etc., what do you think is the biggest weakness or thing that needs to change?
God.
Where do you start with
Yeah,
PUBG?
where do I
I
start? I'm happy to admit that.
Just one.
Yeah,
Just one.
just one.
Yeah.
God, can I just say the developer?
And why?
Sorry, Brendan. I think that, you know what, I will say developer, and then I'll qualify that. I think that because people will often conflate, when they're talking about PUBG and Fortnite, and they talk about what's a better game, they'll often conflate what is the better developer of the two. And Epic have been phenomenal with what they've done with Fortnite in just engaging with the player base, reacting to it, being consistent, and then because you're consistent, you can then surprise people, because people think when they think they know what to expect from you, you can do something unusual. They're creative and inventive with it. They can laugh at themselves. And I think that PUBG has a lot to learn from them, not in terms of just, okay, let's do a battle pass or let's put emotes into our game, but conceptually in terms of how to interact with their community and how to think about their game. I think that the implementation of almost every idea starts wrong in PUBG. So, yeah, the developer, and just in terms of just hitting the nail on the head the first time we do it, not releasing a battle pass where you have to pay to unlock some temporary skins, when it's not a game about skins like Fortnite is. But yeah, a lot of problems that they could work on, I would say. Happy to admit that.
Fortnite, I mean, it does so many things so well. I think there's a few things I would change. I'd love for them to get rid of all the realistic weapons and just go completely crazy fun fantasy. It's sort of weird to be running around dressed as a clown, like playing golf, but still like gunning people down with submachine guns. I think I always wish they would just go completely in the fantasy direction. I think that would just suit the nature of the game. Also, the skins are too expensive. They just made them half the price. I would buy twice as many.
That's
a real issue right there.
As much work. I'm not sure that works out.
Worrying. Yeah. Do I have to do one for each? I'm
Do
not
one
sure.
for each, yeah,
Oh,
go
okay,
on.
okay. Yeah. For PUBG, the monetization and the loot system really irritates me. I think they're considering changing it, but just the duplicates, and it feels really mean. Fortnite has that a bit with the emotes, but I feel like the Battle Pass does feel like good value, and it's quite simple and streamlined, and you get kind of gameplay value out of it. You get extra tasks you can do. For Fortnite, I think they just need to keep up the kind of suspense between seasons. They had a bit of a boring one earlier this season. Before the cube arrived, everyone was like, there's not really much going on.
Yeah,
There's not an exciting narrative. So they need to just work on that and keep getting the kind of conspiracy theories going online, because it's great. It's hilarious to read about. So, yeah.
I should very quickly qualify as well, because I feel a little bit bad about the developer comment, that it's, all things in perspective, those people are going to be working extraordinarily hard on trying to fix that game. They'll be under an insane amount of pressure. So, yeah, within perspective, especially in light of stuff like Telltale recently, there's, developers are people as well. So I feel like I need to go on the record with that and say they're good people, and I know they'll be working unbelievably hard to try and fix it. They just need to work on their execution a bit, that's all.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Sure.
As you were saying with the involvement of streamers, how impactful do you think they were with the fall of PUBG and the rise of Fortnite? Because you see streamers like Ninja have over 1 million followers, and he's constantly playing Fortnite and putting it up in the forefront of the public view.
Yeah, hugely, right? Like, the success of Fortnite is down to the people that champion it and get that conversation going. And I started playing Fortnite quite late, actually, and it was after Ninja got big. And I remember we wrote about the Ninja match with Drake, right? Because it was just such a bizarre thing that was going on. It was something we were just talking about in the office. And it's a self-propelling sense of promotion that just, it's snowballing. I don't as much, but knowing that other people play this game, knowing that everybody plays this game is such a hook that you want to get involved as well. And whether it's streamers or it's whether you're seeing interviews with England football players at the World Cup when they're talking about it, it's like, how can I not be playing this game? Because everybody else is, and I don't want to miss out. I have major FOMO, so that's why I play. Yeah, to the point where the tabloids are writing egregious stories about people who play Fortnite and are losing their marriages because of it.
Yeah.
All promotion. Yeah, and Fortnite does such a good job of it.
Yeah. Eugene? What I would say is that I think a connected factor is that streamers influence kids more than anyone. And kids are really the key to Fortnite's success. Kids actually drive things commercially to a huge extent. Most films are kind of secretly targeted at 12-year-olds. And it's the same with games, even though they won't admit it, and they'll be released as like a 15 or an 18 or whatever else. Really, it's children who drive sales. It's like tugging on your mum and dad's shirt and going, Mummy, I really want to play this game. Or obviously, if you're a little bit older, maybe not doing that. But it's that kind of target audience that affects it. And Twitch is now huge amongst teenagers and kids. It's talked about at school. It's watched, like, I get the bus to work, and there are like 14-year-olds at the back, like, shouting about Fortnite and showing each other videos and talking about Ninja and so on. So, yeah, the streamers are huge, but they're only huge insofar as they have an influence over the actual target audience, which is children. They carried it through to the mainstream. They're the ones that get brought onto, like, This Morning and Channel 4 News and that kind of thing to talk about the cultural impact of it, and is it corrupting the minds of the youth? It's because, yeah, they are absolutely the key to mainstream success, I would say.
Cool. Isn't it a little bit case though with streamers? Isn't there a chicken and egg thing that they're going to it because it's already getting popular?
Yeah, for sure.
It snowballs, for sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a weird one with streamers. Obviously, you have certain key streamers that are always going to be leading it. I think if Dr. Disrespect or Ninja decide to pick up a game, then they will absolutely have an impact. We saw it, I think, with Realm Royale, if anyone knows that game, where it spiked enormously because he just decided to start playing it in between Fortnite games now and then. And then I think they made a mistake with an update, and unfortunately for them, it meant that people like Ninja go, I'm kind of not really that fussed about, I'll play something else, and gone, it's dead. And the game has I work a lot with trends and kind of analysing popularity of games in guides, and you can see it visualised in graphs. It literally spiked and just died. Right, so yeah, there are certain people who actually influence people, and then there's kind of soft influence, which comes from I think a general sense that everyone else is playing it. The same way as when we were younger, we were in the playground and everyone talking about whatever, Pokemon or something like that. If you go to the playground and everyone else is trading Pokemon cards and you're not, you go, I want to get involved in that, because otherwise you feel left out. So there's that sense of it with streamers when the general populace pick up on it because someone else has already kicked off the big discussion. So yeah, it's chicken egg to an extent, but there's kind of a differentiation.
I feel like developers and publishers are also becoming more aware of the importance of streamers when they're launching a game. Because with the example you said, I think Ninja was sponsored to play Realm Royale, I think, perhaps. I might be wrong on that. But there are definitely cases where streamers who are already popular would be sponsored to do it. So that could be something we see more in the future, is that games depend more on streamers right at the start when they launch.
That's absolutely true. Like, publishers will know which streamers are hot on which games, have a very close relationship with them, make sure that they are always, ready to jump on the next update and keep them close by. Like, there are some developers who will take out streamers. Bungie do this with Destiny, and they held like this unprecedented summit over the summer when Destiny was going through a rough patch, and invited core members of like the streaming community out to take the temperature on the updates that were coming, sort of, or even if they were already in the pipeline, to sort of work out how they were going to market them to the rest of the player base. More and more you're seeing streamers as sort of almost like a middle ground between the publishers and the players.
Yeah.
They act as a promotional tier, but also as a sort of, well, how do we talk to the players? Because you're kind of an avatar for them as well. So.
Yeah. I mean, it comes in the title, right? I mean, you are literally self-describing as an influencer. And like, what are you influencing? You're influencing what people want to spend money on, when you really boil it down to it. So it's the same across a lot of other, fields outside of just games. But yeah, they become a kind of a marketing spokesperson for the game as much as anything else. And there's much more streamers you can kind of rely on, a lot more, or influencers, more broadly speaking. You can rely on much more to stay on brand. Especially if you have any kind of agreement with them, than a journalist who might write a terrible preview for a game like Fortnite, which I definitely didn't do.
And its prospects were doomed from then on, right?
Yeah, I was so influential that I just killed that game dead.
That's all we've got time for. Thank you very much.